Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show, coming at you live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm the host, Mark Devlin. I'm here tonight with my co-hosts, David Griffiths and Mary Devlin. How are you tonight, Mary?
I am very good, Mark. Thank you.
And what are you going to be talking about?
Well, tonight we are being warned that Scotland may run out of money.
Has it not already run out of money? That is the question. And David, how are you today?
All good, thank you very much. And tonight I will be assessing the likely date and most probable outcome of the next general election.
Right. Okay. Very good. And we'll all be talking with our special guest, Brian Monteith, ex-MEP and founder of Think Scotland, on his views on the WhatsApp scandal. People are hiding all kinds of things from this COVID inquiry.
And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
Right. So we'll be back with all that and much more in just a moment. Welcome back to the Majority Show, Scotland's number one politics show. From a pro-UK perspective, our aim is a better Scotland without the toxic nationalism that is strangling Scotland's potential. As usual, huge thanks to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages for helping us promote the show on their pages. Many of you are watching from there tonight. Tonight I'm here with co-hosts Mary Devlin and David Griffiths. And David, how's your week been going?
Well, usual pastimes for me really this week, which is property stuff, also a little bit of football, and my new spectator hobby, which is rugby down in Troon, which is absolutely brilliant, loving that. Also this week, I have found myself reaching out to fairly senior figures in Scottish Labour, just looking to open a dialogue as we approach next year's general election, just to discuss the tactical voting guide, etc., etc. I had a really nice chat where I phoned up my local MSP, and the lady, the person answering the phone said to me, can I just ask what the call's relating to? And I said, well, I'd actually quite like to talk to my MSP about the tactical voting guide. She said, I thought it was you. I follow you on Twitter. I've been a bit worried.
Right, that's good.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Well, talking about your tactical voting guide, when is that out, or is it out already?
It's just going to get a little bit of branding. Is what it's actually awaiting. But I mean, I'm going to be putting it under the auspices of another group, as you know. I won't mention that now until it's ready. But I'm half tempted to wait until the more of the candidates are named, because at the moment there are only a couple of seats where I think the identity of the candidate would make any significant difference, but it's just in case. What I don't want to do is put out one version of it and say, oh, we've changed our minds because this guy's been nominated.
Yeah.
So it will certainly be out in the new year without question, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's still there. It's still very valid. I don't see much change to it. And I think we're pretty much in a lull at the moment ahead of the announcement of the date of the election, because everyone's talking about it.
Yes, and that's what you'll be talking about in your segment.
Absolutely right. Indeed.
Great stuff. Remember, sharing is caring. The number one thing you can do for this show is to like it on YouTube. We actually got over 250 or something like that likes last week, and that boosted us way up. And in fact, last week's show was the best, had the best numbers on YouTube. We do get a lot of viewers, in addition, of course, on Facebook and Twitter as well. Yeah. But it's really good to see our YouTube numbers going up. So if you are on YouTube, please hit that like button now, even if you don't subscribe now. Of course, we want you to subscribe as
indeed,
well.
Yes, indeed. If you can subscribe, please do so, because that increases the reach of the show at the click literally of one button. So please subscribe.
And as usual, I'll be handling all your comments tonight, so please keep them short and snappy. I'll try to get as many up on the screen as I can.
Right. Okay, we'll be back in a second with the day's news. What did Scotland do to deserve a First Minister who does not respect our war dead? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty angry about this situation here, about Humza Yousaf and his continuing willingness to allow pro-Palestinian or really anti-Israel marchers to dictate what's going on in this country. So, I mean, I don't know about you, David, but didn't you think that, the Sturgeon years were bad enough and that it couldn't actually get any worse? I mean, really.
Absolutely. I mean, you know my view of the quality of the legislation that was passed under Sturgeon, the GRR bill, the very idea of going into coalition with the Greens. Not only that, but Sturgeon's absurd habit of taking selfies shamelessly, and of course the two most ill-conceived pieces of legislation ever brought before the Scottish Parliament, the hate crimes bill and its even worse predecessor, the offensive behaviour at football act. That was bad enough indeed, but look where we are now, my God.
Yes, I mean, at least to some extent you could say that those botched plans were in her remit, right? They were about Scotland. Now we seem to be in a whole new territory entirely, where Humza Yousaf, the First Minister of Gaza, seems intent on taking all of Sturgeon's bad works and making them even worse. I mean, first of all, we've had the continuance of the Greens.
Yep.
We had, and their policies, Lorna Slater and so on, the elevation of Lorna Slater to actually being a thing. Mary is going to talk a little about.
I'll be talking about Lorna later. Yes,
that's a crime in itself, right? But then being called a blatant racist by the world's richest man and perhaps most productive man, I don't know. You thought, okay, that's pretty bad. But now we've got this whole thing going on, grandstanding on Gaza, while all actual Scottish issues go unheeded. It's like Sturgeon. She was so desperate to get in front of a camera. She go to COP20, whatever it was, and do all this other stuff while people are like, well, wait a minute, we've got things to do here. I mean, even on her own side, her supporters were saying, well, wait a minute, we've got independence to deal with. Why are you often dealing with all these international people and whatever? It's just nonsense. So and then we've got him sending £750,000 instantly to Gaza, as if Scotland was a giant cash register you could just put money out of into any of your pet projects. Well, the people in Brecon, for example, who recently were flooded, have to listen to consultations.
Yeah.
No money, no help as well. And there he's been constantly calling for a ceasefire that will only strengthen Hamas. Here's a clip from that.
Still have extended family stuck in the north, as well as, of course, family in the south. This is a pivotal moment now for the international community. You either support an immediate ceasefire, as the Scottish Government has been calling for many weeks, or you're frankly enabling the suffering of innocent men, women and children, almost 10,000 of whom have lost their lives, including over 4,000 children. So I want Scotland to absolutely be on the right side of history. I hope every other country will do likewise. We have to have an immediate ceasefire, one that's now supported by 18.
Right, anyway, so rather than go through more of that, let's have a quick, let's go through that for a second. I mean, first of all, 4,000 children killed, Hamas numbers, uncritically parroting Hamas. These are terrorist organizations, casualty numbers. They're completely unverified. Whenever you see anything, it's, even if the UN say they've done it, those numbers also come from Hamas. I think that basically is a sign of anti-Semitism on its face, first of all. But I mean, the other part is he wants us to make a choice. You either have a ceasefire or you're killing innocent people. Well, what about the actual terrorists? The terrorists who went in and murdered 1,400 Israeli citizens? No mention of them. Very, very minimal mention of the hostages. It's really quite despicable, actually. And, I think the thing here is that he, this is not his position to talk about. What do you think, David?
Completely. It's the ultimate in grandstanding while ignoring what's actually going on at home. And this is what Humza is best. That's what the SNP is best at, to be honest. Angus Robertson always does the same stuff. It's quite disgraceful. And I saw Chris Williamson, who's the very, very extreme ex-Labour MP, being interviewed on TOTW by Julia Hartley-Brewer today, and he was saying exactly the same stuff. 10,000 dead and all this. And then she said, well, there's not really going to be a ceasefire. And she was trying to reason with him. And he said, well, of course, Gaza's just a concentration camp. And she said, no, it's not. And this is the sort of nonsense you get from these people. They make these nebulous, completely false points just to switch the angle of attack straight back to Israel again. Now, as far as I'm concerned, calling for a ceasefire now is just the latest in a series of futile calls for something that's just not going to happen. Now, we all know that since 2014, we've heard we want an independence referendum, we want a second vote. We're not going to get it. And of course, ever since 2016, right up until election day in 2019, we have the constant clamour for a people's vote. In other words, a vote to scrap the outcome of Brexit. Neither of those things happen, thank God, and neither will this. To be honest, it really doesn't matter what you think of the rights and wrongs of Israel's military action in Gaza. Trust me, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until, as they've said, every Gaza leader is eliminated, i.e. killed. That's what's going to happen. Now, you might not like that, and I know that the human suffering is terrible, leaving aside the slanted propaganda of the Hamas numbers. Israel is not going to let this go. That's just what's going to happen. So calls for a ceasefire, frankly, are just wasting your breath. They're not. It's not going to happen.
It's just grandstanding, and I wonder who the audience for that is. But I think I mean, okay, some people can say, all right, well, that's he's got family there, all this type of stuff. But again, if that's a personal issue, then that's not what he was elected for. I put a thing on Twitter that said there was not a single person in Scotland voted for Humza Yousaf to opine on Gaza.
No.
He wasn't elected for that, even by his own party, even by his own members. They weren't elected. He wasn't elected for that. He was elected to advance the cause of independence, perhaps, right? Well, ostensibly, and to deal with Scottish issues. No, there's no foreign remit, foreign affairs remit for the Scottish Parliament. But here he is every day doing that. Now, I think that's one part of it. But now that I think people could maybe accept that because it didn't really affect them too much, a war in a far-off country. But the things have changed because now he's saying that he has issues with the anti-Israel hate marches that are going on Armistice Day and or the weekend as well. Speaking in Dundee, the First Minister said, I understand the march is taking place after the minute's silence that we all undoubtedly observe. I hear it's not going anywhere near Whitehall or indeed the Cenotaph. And of course, if armistice was about anything, my goodness, it's about peace. I think that is a bit of a cheek because it's not actually about peace. And it's about remembrance of those who died. It's not a peace festival. It's not something that can be hijacked or should be hijacked by people saying they want peace when actually what they're really doing is emboldening some kind of hate. Now, Suella Braverman, she said it was a hate march. Many people across the political community have said this is a hate march. And he's got the cheek here. He says, I'm beyond angry at the Home Secretary in the UK government who seem to want to drive every issue into a culture war. Describing those marches as hate marches, disgraceful, unacceptable. But we've all seen them shouting from the river to the seas, Palestine should be free, and calling for jihad. And the thing is that, I think many people think, well, wait a minute, this is our day of remembrance.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be sullied by people using it for their crass political ends. I mean, the people who died were from all political parties, all faiths, both sexes and so on. So it's not a day to hop on top of and do your thing, right?
The people who died also came from Asia as well.
So
many different
India,
countries,
Pakistan, and lots of places on the continent.
Well, both of my grandfathers fought in the Second World War. Their sacrifices were away for many years from their families and at risk of death. Whatever. And I don't think they should be sullied. Their remembrance or their service should be sullied by this type of thing. And I think that's the thing that we should keep in mind, I think, to some extent, is that this is actually for all people here in Scotland. I'm going to break this with this clip. I don't know if you saw this thing with, what's his name, Douglas Murray?
Yeah.
So let's have a look at this clip here, about what he thinks of the situation.
For instance, the First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, he's married to a Palestinian. She's a particularly nasty piece of work, who has been on the record before smearing the Jewish state in all sorts of ways. Her parents are in Gaza. Humza Yousaf, as far as I can see, is not the First Minister of Scotland. He's become the First Minister of Gaza, or an ambassador for Gaza, or something like that.
Yeah. He thinks Scotland's too white.
He thinks also that Scotland should take in the people of Gaza as refugees. In the Scotland of my youth, I think we would have been amazed at the idea that by the year 2023 we would have a First Minister calling for the importing of people from one of the world's most radical statelets, not yet states, encampments, cities, strips. Scotland, by the way, has only just come out of several hundred years of extremely intense political and religious warfare.
Yeah.
The sulphur of it continues on some of the terraces, some of the football stadiums, some of the streets. What an amazing thing in the 21st century to import an even worse religious conflict.
Right.
But people like Humza Yousaf have, I said carefully, but have infiltrated our system. He does not seem to be much bothered by the situation of the Scottish people, the people of Glasgow, who have one of the lowest life expectancies, not just in Britain, but anywhere in Europe. He does not seem to care about that, or if he does nothing about it. But my word, if you look at his social media proclamations and everything else, you would think that he was indeed First Minister of Gaza. This is a problem that the Scots must sort out, the Scottish electorate must sort out, and indeed the British electorate. But it is very, very late in the day.
Interesting words there from Douglas Murray, the author and commentator. I'm going to bring in our special guest now, Brian Monteith, who is an ex-ME member of the European Parliament. Hi, Brian, and who also runs Think Scotland, which produces a lot of articles. For example, Dean Thompson's article was on Think Scotland. Dean was on the show a few weeks ago. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm very well, thanks. Glad to join you.
Good. What did you think?
Brian.
What did you think there about Douglas Murray's comments and about this whole Armistice Day issue?
Well, I think Douglas Murray makes a lot of good points, not least the interest that Humza Yousaf seems to show in Gaza is displacing what should be his proper concerns in regard to the nature of Scotland's economy and its social welfare, the poverty, the homelessness, the drug deaths, the dreadful record under the SNP, life expectancy getting worse, all these things we know about. And where is he? What's he doing about it? No, he's actually donating £750,000 to Hamas through the UN. Well, good luck with that. Let's be not kid ourselves that somehow it's going to put food on the table, water in their cups. No, it's actually going to displace the funding that then the Gaza government has to make to then build more tunnels, to fire more missiles. And their missiles, by the way, actually are aimed at Israeli hospitals.
Yes,
only their
right,
hospitals don't have tunnels underneath.
Yes, I saw that actually today, that they were targeting, or well, I don't know if targeting is really the right word, firing in the general direction of hospitals and so on, hoping they would hit them. So, I mean, do you think this is good politics on the part of Humza, or do you think it's a bit of a dead end? Oh. You okay? Could you hear that part there?
Right.
Brian, can you hear us?
Oh, he's gone. He's gone there. He's going to come back.
On, yeah.
Oh, what, David? What do you think? Do you think it's a good politics? Do you think it's a dead end?
I think it's extraordinarily short-sighted of Humza Yousaf, because, quite frankly, issues in Gaza are not election winners in Scotland, and I don't mean to politicise it either, but it's a fact. If this is how the First Minister of Scotland is going to spend all his time, and let's not forget, for 3 of the last 4 weeks, he did nothing but appear on TV as if he just peeled an onion, talking about his in-laws in Gaza and how terrible it was and all this nonsense. Well, that's very regrettable, I'm sure. But you're the First Minister. You're not just some guy on the telly saying, "Oh, I've got relatives over there." That's an awful shame. But you're the First Minister of this little land here. That's what you should be focused on, and everything that's gone wrong there, including, as people said, the devastating flood damage in the northeast of Scotland. And meanwhile, what's he talking about? Getting his mother-in-law back home from a place she should never have been in the first place because she went there against FCO advice. So it's been farcical. This is the antithesis of good politics, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, some people have said that he's using this issue just the way Nicola Sturgeon used the COVID pandemic to get in front of the cameras to show that he's some kind of statement. Brian, you're back with us. Apologies for intermittent connection, but any final words on this Humza Yousaf issue and Armistice Day?
Well, it just belies belief that the idea that what is going on in Gaza and in Israel is actually of his concern. His private affairs aside, which he's quite at liberty to obviously comment on, are not actually his locus. His locus is not going to COP28, which is the next thing he's about to do. It is all out of the Nicola Sturgeon playbook of dividing the country so he can appeal to the base, the core vote of the SNP. There's no prospect of them being a beneficiary of this other than trying to keep together the core of the SNP. It's about party politics, and that's why it's so shameful. That's why it's disgusting, because there's no good that will come out of Humza Yousaf's intervention. He's not going to solve the Middle East crisis, but, he could solve the drug crisis. He could solve the housing crisis. What's his job?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think those are fairly strong words there. My message to Humza is Scotland is not all about you. It's not your plaything. It's not all about your pet projects and family dramas. It's about all Scots. Show us and those who died to make the society that your family came to for wealth and safety some respect.
Yeah.
In a minute, we will come back with Brian and we're going to talk a little bit more about the SNP's WhatsApp shenanigans. We'll see you in a second. Right. First of all, what have you been? Tell us what you've been up to and what you've been doing lately.
Did I drop off suddenly?
No.
You're here.
Yeah, you're here. It's okay. Can you tell us what you've been up to lately?
Lately? Just really doing commercial work, trying to keep my head above water.
We're all about like that.
We know how that feels.
Mostly writing op-eds and commentary pieces for business PR for the Middle East.
Oh, really? Okay. So but you did publish some articles on I think Scotland, or perhaps it was the Herald. I'm not too sure. Scotsman. About the Sturgeon's WhatsApp, not Sturgeon, it's not just Sturgeon, is it? It's the whole SNP WhatsApp scandal. So I was wondering if you'd be able to give us maybe an update on that and some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the nature of it is that this is not something that's going to go away. It has to be understood that what's happened is that the UK COVID inquiry has actually requested material, including WhatsApps, from Scottish politicians and officials, and it's there at the UK COVID inquiry that they have not been given them. So more effort will be put in place to get them. Then there will be further revelations about what's missing, undoubtedly. And it will then come back again when the Scottish COVID inquiry seeks to obtain WhatsApp messages and emails and such like too. So this is going to be a long festering sore on the face of the SNP. And it betrays their huge secrecy that has been used to instill discipline to their politicians and their members, and actually keep secrets from the Scottish people. There's no transparency, there's no openness. with the SNP in government. It is one of the darkest of bleak holes in the universe. Nothing comes out of it because it's all destroyed.
Yeah, it's like the black hole in Interstellar. But some things appear to be recoverable. We saw this. I'm going to play this clip here from Humza Yousaf again about finding WhatsApp's messages behind the sofa or wherever it is. Let's have a look.
Yes, we will, and I'll meet my own personal deadline, of course, which is also important for me to do. So I'm responsible for my statement. I'm responsible for the corporate government statement. I will be handing over all WhatsApp messages that we have to hand.
And can you explain the appearance of a phone that apparently has your WhatsApp messages on it? Was it in a drawer in your home, or can you talk us through how that was found and how old the phone is and what was on it?
No, I'm not going to talk you through. Of course, it's for the inquiry to ask any relevant questions they want. I think what's relevant to the inquiry is, do you have messages and can you hand them over? The answer is yes, I have messages, and yes, I'll be handing them over in unredacted form, but I'm not going to give a running commentary in a live public inquiry, neither my evidence nor indeed the evidence of others.
Right, okay. Well, we know, of course, that from inquiries to the inquiry that the people are allowed to talk about where they have got their messages from and so on, I think. What do you think of that there, Brian?
Well, I think what's going on here is very careful use of language.
Okay.
And because really what's happening is that Humza Yousaf is trying to protect himself from incriminating his position, just as Nicola Sturgeon has tried to protect herself by not really saying what she's done at all. So there's a difference between saying I will make my WhatsApp messages available to actually saying I will make all of my WhatsApp messages available.
Yes.
Because of course, if some have been deleted, then they can't be made available unless, strangely, another phone appears or someone else has records of them. But there's also the concern that previously the First Minister was saying he had abided by the Scottish Government policy. Mm-hmm. But the policy seemed to change between keeping and deleting. So what did he do? And at what time did he do it? That will become crucial as well, because at different points during the pandemic, the nature of inquiries being established was announced, and people were warned not to delete or remove any evidence. So there is actually so much still to come out of this that it will plague him right up until any election that happens. I just would like to see the opposition parties use far more of the parliamentary tools that they have at their disposal in Holyrood by actually kicking up a stink about this. They are elected representatives, and they have the opportunity to storm out, to put censures in, to put motions of no confidence in. There's all sorts of procedures they can follow, and really putting out press release or making the odd statement is not good enough. We need more action.
Yes, I mean, that clip does raise some questions like, wait a minute, you've got two phones? And you just found...
Sorry, can I just interject here? Because in WhatsApp, I mean, the messages are stored on the phone number, not on the phone. So if I go out and buy myself a new phone and I install WhatsApp, as soon as I log in, I've got access to all of my old messages. So what's he going on about? Found another phone?
Can I just clarify that slightly? Mm-hmm. You're quite right, in as much as you don't see the old messages in your new phone. You don't. That doesn't happen. However, there's an application called WhatsApp Web, which I've just opened now, and I can guarantee you don't even need access to the server. All of your messages since forever are on that. So anybody can see all of your messages, doesn't matter how many phones you keep. So that's a complete red herring, really.
It really is. I'm going to just pivot a little bit here, and we'll talk a little bit about the inquiry and Nicola Sturgeon. I don't know if it's Nicola Sturgeon's behaviour. And this is what was out. I think this came out today. Let's have a listen.
It was the politics that was always the problem, and it seemed to us in Downing Street that it didn't matter what the decision was. Scotland would always want to do it slightly differently. I think there was a real desire by the Scottish Government to always show that they were not doing the same as England and that they were running a different operation in Scotland and that they were, in their view, doing things better. It was just, but it always almost seemed that there was a desire just to be different.
Opportunistic?
I think it's a good word.
And it's implicit in everything that you've said that this was a source of frustration in Downing Street.
It was a frustration. It was just look. You're making a decision at a Cobra meeting or whatever to change a rule, and then you find out that the change has just been done in Scotland the day before or 3 days later, and then there were also arguments about some of the messaging that had to be put out. It just caused confusion.
So I think an interesting part of this is this idea that that first of all, it was supposed to be this Four Nations thing going on, but basically that the SNP abused that, and now we're only hearing about this because of the thing that we've asked for so long: oversight by the UK government. And Brian, any final words? This is going to be on that there, and anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think the UK government, and this by this I mean it will go down into the Labour Party if it takes over and becomes the UK government. I think the civil servants, as we can see there, will make sure that it's understood that in future, in any sort of pandemic, another one were to hit the UK, that we would not take the same approach, because there was an opportunity very early on to decide if it was a national emergency rather than a public health problem. But because they decided, and this was crucial, because they decided it was a public health problem, then the law was that public health was a devolved area, and it was actually put out to all the different assemblies and parliaments. Had they decided that it was in fact a national emergency, then it would have been a uniform decision process applied across the whole of the UK, and the Scottish Government would simply be an agent in delivering those national decisions. That is what I would expect to happen in the future, because never again can we have a situation where a First Minister and our Health Secretary decide that, having heard that people should no longer be pushed from hospitals into care homes, even if they have COVID, that they would continue on. Because that is what they did in Scotland. Simply to be different, they carried on with that bad practice that put people's lives at risk. That was unforgivable.
It really was, and just enabled a whole year of grandstanding from Nicola Sturgeon, and terrible outcomes that are coming up. So we're all for, of course, more oversight. But let's see, imagine there was oversight on everything, spending, every decision made, ferries, and so on. That's what we really need. Brian, a huge thank you to you for coming on the show. We hope to get you on the show again soon, and we'll talk to you later.
Great to see you, Brian.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Buddy.
That was Brian Monteith, who is a former member of the European Parliament and founder of Think Scotland. You can follow him on Twitter or X, whatever you would like to call it, as the Blue Trot. I put that up a wee minute ago. Up again, here it goes. There we go there. So you can do that. Lots of interesting stuff on his timeline, of course. We will... actually, no, we're not going to do another message. We need thanks to everyone who has supported and donated to keep the show going. We have, as you may have known if you're a regular viewer, you will know that we had some sound issues last week, and we've been raising some funds for that on Donor Box. We've got I don't know if this is 6 or 8, £162 of our £500 goal so far. If you can help us, we get a new mixer, and that could be good. Mary's going to put the link on there.
I just did.
Oh, did you?
And I'm also going
and we'll put it up in a wee, when I was pointing the YouTube video. Oh, it's up here. Or up there. That's what that will be up there as well. That will be really great. And I noticed Maria already made a super thanks donation, which helps as we go through the show. You can also leave a super sticker donation as well. And if you're not on YouTube, please go to the Majority site where you can make donation. Actually, don't go to donation. Well, you can do it there as well. That's fine, and we'll put it into that one. Right, coming up shortly, David is going to be talking about the next general election. When will it be? What will happen? Mystic Dave will tell us all we need to know. All right. Sorry, Dave. I wanted to ask you, what did you think of Brian's segment? That was pretty good.
As always, he nails it. I think his articles, his op-eds are terrific. He's absolutely right in terms of what he says. You are seeing ludicrous grandstanding here from Humza. He's talking about stuff he has no right doing while he's ignoring the day job. It really is as simple as that. And
well, that seems to be the best. What the job is all about. If you can grandstand, okay.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. All about putting himself forward, just like his predecessor, disgraceful.
Yes,
and I think the Scottish
continuity.
Exactly, indeed. So,
it's not doing her much good now.
Indeed, and because he's going to turn her even more vehemently very soon, is my understanding. So, we'll look out for that, guys. That will be a lot of fun. But as Mark rightly said, in my classic capacity as Mystic DG, I just want to talk about something we're all looking forward to with great anticipation, and that is the next general election, because I think we're all agreed it can't come soon enough. We're even getting calls for a Holyrood election soon, but I think that's a wee bit unlikely right now. Anyway, the first thing is to see when will it be. So just want to clarify this, because I know it's not abundantly clear. It is now almost 4 years since the last general election. I think it was 13 December 2019. Now, what that means is that's when the election took place on a Thursday, which meant the first parliamentary sitting of the new parliament with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister with his big majority took place on Monday, 17 December 2019, which means the next general election has to be called by the same date 5 years later. Now, if, for example, Rishi Sunak desperately clings on and says, I'm no going, and just doesn't bother calling one, then Parliament is automatically dissolved and a general election has to take place 25 working days later, which would mean the latest possible date, latest conceivable date on which the general election can take place is the 25th of January 2025.
Oh my God. That's
exactly. Now, realistically, Rishi Sunak won't, of course, do that. It's far more likely to call an election before this date. And it's important also to note, guys, that the Fixed Term Parliament Act, which said that, okay, every parliament's going to run its course, that lasted 2 terms and it's been scrapped now.
That's right, that was scrapped.
Exactly. So the Prime Minister can call a general election at any time without first having to gain parliamentary approval. So when's it likely to be? Now, the answer, unfortunately, is not too soon in all likelihood, because recent history shows very clearly that early general elections are only called when the opinion polls look favourable for the ruling government. If you look back, this happened when Thatcher came in after 4 years in 1983. She called an election, got a massive majority. After a further 4 years in 87, she called another one. Then in 5 years after, 5 years after, it looked like she was going to lose. She waited, or rather, by that time it was Major. He waited till the last minute and unexpectedly won. Then in 97, of course, the same thing happened again. It looked like the Conservatives were going to lose. They hung until the last minute and then got absolutely obliterated. And Blair came in 2001, 4 years later. He called an early election. 2005, he called another one. And would you believe it? In 2010, when it looked like he might lose, he waited until 5 years. It always happens. So it's going to be 5 years or so. Now, they won't wait until December. They won't have another election in December. I think it's more likely to be as soon. We know, I mean, you can see the Conservatives are miles behind in every opinion poll, and it's not looking like there's any major likelihood of that changing anytime soon. Unless the economic indicators change quite massively or markedly, let's say inflation falls and interest rates come down, there's no reason for them to call an election in the meantime, I don't believe. But already you're seeing this week, I saw the Daily Telegraph say, oh, this could be a boost for Rishi Sunak. Experts say interest rates might fall before the next election. Yeah, so he's going to wait for something to change, which means I don't think it will happen too early. I think he'll hang on for now. I don't think it will happen in May. And most observers think it'll either be May or October. My feeling is it's probably going to be October, possibly Halloween.
Our viewers seem to think it's going to be happening in May.
That's a lot of people
saying May.
A lot of people do. I think my friend Jilly will be on tonight suggesting it's going to be in May. She usually does.
Gillian's on. Yep.
Oh, she's on. Yeah, bless her. I think she thinks it's going to be early, but I think she thinks from altruistic reasons. Oh, surely he'll realise he's got a coalition. Not a chance. You don't get politicians doing that for selfless reasons. We just hang on to the last minute. So
well, Halloween would be appropriate because the Conservative Party is the Walking Dead.
Yes, indeed.
I just don't think there's any advantage to waiting. I mean, they just had that conference, which was an impressive failure. It was stunning how much of a failure it was. They tried to rebrand themselves as the agents of change or some such other BS, and it was just a dud. They alienated. The whole conference is overshadowed by the HS2 issue, which basically alienated any potential swing voters in the north. Just like, don't care about us. Well, and this nonsense, we'll give you more money for other stuff, and then it's like there's no more money. Well, I mean, you can't say I'm cancelling this to save money, and then say I'm going to give all the money to some other project, because that's not saving money. So they didn't give more money to other stuff, just cancelled it because there's some people didn't like it. That's what thought it would get. He thought it would get a turnaround, or the base would be for it. But actually, most people are not for it. They just think government can't build anything. They're rubbish. Yeah. I think that's it. And they just seem to be obsessed with small details and just nonsense policies instead of the main policy, which, as we all know, is to stop the boats. And well,
there's a distinct lack of leadership. I mean, it takes a leader to be able to do these big infrastructure projects and convince people that these are a good idea.
Yeah. There's no sales pitch really in anything, is there? Is there ever an attempt to convince you to say, right, this is what we're doing and we're going to really do this, even though it's hard? Remember, John F. Kennedy, we do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Or we go to the moon in this decade. But that's what it's remembered for, because they made the pledge to do it and they actually did it in the end. I mean, we have this situation, there's just no ambition. They never tell us what type of country they want, and it's just. I mean, even this Armistice Day thing, he won't stop it.
Yep.
And I would say I don't know what the polling is, but I think the polling is very, very strongly, especially from Tory voters. I would think that 90% of Tory voters want this stopped, and yet he won't do it.
Yeah.
And so there's no feeling like you're in charge. There's no one in charge. No one's who's going to make us stand up and make a decision. No, it's a hard decision. Make a decision.
Great.
He's a banker, not a leader.
True. Well, yeah.
Yes, would simply say a word that rhymes with banker, perhaps. But I mean, this is we want people people are elected to make decisions.
That's right.
And to make hard decisions. And of course, a lot of people are not going to like those decisions. Your opponents are not going to like them and fight them. But that's what you've got to do. You've got to fight for your people, your team, right? And he hasn't been doing any of that. So the Conservative team is going to stay at home. Right,
that's it. Indeed,
and Labour's going to pick up the pieces.
Well, a lot of people don't think Labour are going to do a good job of that.
Well, I know, but I do think there's some kind of. I mean, recently, Starmer has been trying to create this United Britain image. You saw the conference Union flag there and all this, and trying to get rid of the nationalists and all that. But there's, can they continue that? He's been able to not commit. I mean, it's theirs to lose, so he can't be seen to commit too strongly to anything. So he's kind of riding the fence all the time. And a lot of people don't like that. But, is he going to get elected if he comes down heavily on another side? What do you think, David, of that?
Yeah, I think both leaders at the moment are very hesitant to take strong positions really on any issue that they feel might be divisive. And a lot of people feel that Sunak certainly is steering clear of doing anything controversial. He's got Braverman doing all the controversial stuff for him, really. And then you've got Starmer, who until 2 months ago didn't know what a woman was. And so, really that you need more statesmanship from potential leaders than we're seeing currently. And a lot of people I can see here are saying, I've got an awful feeling that Starmer will blow it. And it could be, that could well be. Labour has got an incredible record of shooting itself in the foot. We know that. And there's a school of thought at the moment that you've seen a lot of these Muslim councillors, and even a front bencher today who happens to be Muslim, leaving Labour in protest at Starmer's views on Gaza. And there is a cynical view saying, well, he considers that a small price to pay if it rids him of the if you like, the Muslim element in his party. He's quite happy with that because it will distance him from accusations from the Tories that he's too pro-Palestine. So you're seeing some very dirty stuff right now, but what you're not seeing is anybody coming out categorically and saying, no, I don't believe in this. I mean, apart from Starmer, in fairness, saying, like, you can't have a ceasefire, and Sunak the same. Yes. The right to say that, because frankly, it's not going to happen. It might be them unpopular, but it's not going to happen. So they might.
Yeah, it's quite unusual. I mean, he's trying to ride that wave, Starmer, and we'll see how that continues as more pressure is put to bear on him. Anyway, I just think that my feeling is that elections has to. Are they going to really make us go through all the pain of waiting till December? Are they going to do that?
No, certainly not December.
The electorate will punish them just for that alone.
That's correct. Well, this is the thing: is you've got to consider so much. But I mean, just to go back to what we were talking about, I think it will certainly be in the next 11 months, likely to be towards the end of the summer rather than the start of the summer. And in terms of the outcome, well, I've talked about this a lot. Only 2 Labour leaders who were born after the date of creation of the Labour Party in 1900 have actually won general elections. An utterly unbelievable statistic, but I think it's now probably time that the 3rd leader born since the year 1900 will actually win an election. I don't see Alba and Reform, the kind of like outsiders, being any great making any great contribution other than taking votes away from, say, Alba from the SNP and Reform from the Conservative Party.
Yes.
There are 2 parties of government in Scotland and in the UK which are both very unpopular. Labour stands to gain massively. This is their time, I believe. So I think it will certainly be the largest party. Whether they get enough to form a majority is unclear. But as some people are threatening, some Conservatives are saying, oh, that means they'll need the SNP to prop them up. The SNP will not be the 3rd biggest party in Parliament next time, guys. I guarantee you that. So, yeah, it's
looking like we can get rid of some of these chancellors that are warming seats in our political establishments.
Exactly. So I'll talk about that again later on. So yes, indeed, Mark, quite right.
Okay. Because Brian was on, going to be running a few minutes late. If you're with us, please, we thank you for staying with us, and hope you are enjoying the conversation and discussion. And thank you for all your comments that are coming in. Mary is going to talk about Scotland running out of money in a second. So we'll see you in a second. Mary, how can
because we spend too much and we don't make enough.
All right. Well, there you go. Basic stuff there.
We don't seem to have any concept in Scotland of cash flow, like how much is going to come in, therefore how much can we promise to pay people, what it comes down to. Okay, yes, Scotland may well be running out of money if things don't change quickly. This week, a highly critical report by MSPs has warned that Scotland could run out of money unless ministers improve the way they manage the nation's finances. So I don't know what we
right, okay. Can we have a laugh break?
Yeah. Right, I don't know what anyone thinks the chances of that is going to be. Okay, so this comes from the Scottish Parliament's Finance and Public Administration Committee, who accused the SNP Green administration of short-term thinking and a failure to ensure policies are affordable. We're expected to face a spending gap of up to £1 billion in the 2024-25 fiscal year, which is the next fiscal year.
Yes.
And forecasts have warned that this could actually come to about 1.9 billion by 2027 to 28, and we don't have the funds to cover that from anywhere else. So the report was published 2 days ago, and it's an embarrassment to the Scottish Government and Humza Yousaf, because there were 7 people on the committee, and from that 3 of them were SNP MSPs, really? Including the convener Kenneth Gibson.
Oh.
So I talked last week about how there's been a lot of criticism of the Scottish Government over for raising the public sector wages this year. They wanted to avoid the bad publicity of strikes, so they basically just gave anyone whatever they asked for. But they've got absolutely no idea how they're going to pay for it. So Kenneth Gibson, he said, we've seen little evidence to suggest a shift away from the Scottish Government's short-term approach towards financial planning, an approach hampered by reliance on one-year UK financial settlements. So basically it sounds as if what they're saying is that they're only looking like 1 year ahead. You know, they're offering all this stuff, all these like future pay deals and so on. And they don't even know. They haven't done any planning of, well, how much is this actually going to cost us in a couple of years? So there's a complete lack of clarity. He said there's a lack of clarity, just a few things like about the purpose, the objectives, the timetable, the upfront costs required, anticipated savings and efficiencies to be delivered, which is pretty much everything that's of any importance whatsoever when you're doing some financial planning. For example, the recent Humza Yousaf, as we know, he just blurted out that there's going to be they're going to freeze council taxes in Scotland next year. So the committee are asking for more details on how this is going to be funded. Now, Humza hasn't got a clue on all of that. I think it's quite funny that Liz Smith, I know this isn't the funny one, sorry. Liz Smith, she's the finance spokeswoman for the Scottish Conservatives. She said, short-term thinking has for years been a hallmark of this SNP government's approach to public finances. It's what has created the black hole in the budget, savage cuts to frontline services and stagnant growth. So that's why we've got those things, guys, because there's no financial planning going on in Scotland.
More black holes than what's that guy in the wheelchair?
Than Star Trek. There's more black holes in Star Trek.
Hawking, more black holes than Stephen Hawking's notepad. Okay, I'm sure we could do better. That was a bit off the hoof.
Well, what I thought was really interesting about this to begin with was that this is actually the SNP's own MSPs who are saying this.
Well, because perhaps they might have some little inkling in the back of their little tiny minds that, if they don't get their act in order, they're going to lose their jobs.
Yep, indeed.
Perhaps do that. David, do you get some thoughts on this?
Well, it's true. I mean, even a brain dead SNP MSP can see that if you can't, if you don't increase council tax bills, that you're not going to be able to pay for local services, and you're not going to give pay increases to council staff. And that's going to make people very unhappy, obviously. So, I mean,
it's a gift to the middle classes as well, right?
Well, it is, exactly. It's the same as free tuition fees in universities. All that happens there is millionaires' children go to university and don't have to take out a loan. What is that?
I saw this, actually. That reminds me, actually. I saw this thing. This guy was like, we got a baby box. And I was like, and it was on Twitter, and I was
and
like,
he doesn't look like the type that would need a baby
box.
No,
it's like a cardboard box.
Wow. Middle class person, freeloader, middle class freeloaders.
Yeah, indeed.
It's
ludicrous, all of it. Ludicrous.
I think some of this comes down to, for example, our finance minister is Shona Robison.
Yes, your favourite.
I mean, Kate Forbes is bad enough, but at least she had done a couple of years of accounting. As a junior in an office, accounting office. But Shona Robinson, I mean, really?
Yeah, well, Shona Robinson, of course, was one of Nicola Sturgeon's university SNP mates, and that's the only reason that she
did a Master of Arts or something, and her work experience was working for Glasgow City Council in the social work department.
As our parents used to say, you couldn't run a menage.
Exactly.
I didn't know what a menage was until I was like 30 years old. Anyway,
I'll say nothing.
Right. Okay. So yes, who's going to bail us out, Mary?
Well, that's the question. I mean, what's going to happen if Scotland can't pay its bills?
Yeah.
Yes.
At the moment, of course, you get UK taxpayers who can bail you out to an extent.
Well, they are. I mean, the bail is out, but isn't there? It's a formula. So I don't know if the formula can extend itself to another £2 billion a year. Indeed. Already, every man, woman, child, and baby in Scotland receives an extra £2,500 over what people in other parts of the country receive. So you'd have to give a lot more than that to cover the extra $2 billion of the black hole.
Right. Well, it's.
And when would it end? I mean, if they're just going to keep on doing this, I mean, they're just like throwing money around, like. The magic money tree is shedding its leaves.
The magic money tree that goes into a black hole. To mix some metaphors. Right, great segment there, Mary. Lots of comments there. Pity I couldn't put a lot of them up. But we do see all of your comments as they scroll by as well. So please keep putting them in. Okay, where are we at? Thank you for being with us tonight as we try to get through the horror show of Scottish politics. Here. If you can, please subscribe to the show and leave comments on YouTube so we can grow the action. What we really want you to hit the like button now. If you can do that, that would be great. In addition to that, of course, you can donate. buy some amazing merchandise at the Majority Shop, and tell your friends about us, or do all of the above. Coming up, it's a moment you have all been waiting for. It is the highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the Week. Okay, right, here we go. Right, so a meeting last night said, "Great night discussing how we win the coming UK election and take forward the campaign for Scotland's independence." I might have missed something, Tommy, but you're not going to win the UK election, perhaps because you're only running in 59 seats out of 650.
It's actually 57 this year.
57. Oh, because it's gone down, that's right. Yep. I was going to ask you about that, actually.
Yes, true.
Totally delusional.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But delusional.
He's not your Zoomer.
That was some prime Zoomerism there. Actually, we should probably have, I was thinking we should maybe have an also-rans, or runners up is version. But anyway, just before we came on, there was some shocking news. Michael Matheson, SNP Health Secretary, is billing taxpayers for £11,000 in data overage charges for his iPad. Now,
how much?
11,000 quid. Oh,
yep, there it is. There, right there. Look at that. £11,000. So Matheson ran up the charges while on holiday in Morocco. The SNP minister and MSP for Falkirk West accumulated the fees on his parliamentary iPad, which had not been switched over, apparently, to a new, more generous contract. The £10,936 bill...
That's obscene.
Yes, right. Was charged to the previous mobile provider that declined to waive the cost. Well, I mean, I would decline. Yeah, exactly. Do the same. Hollywood authorities are satisfied the iPad was being used for parliamentary business while he was on the beach in Morocco, and not for personal or government purposes, and so will pay the lion's share of the cost, which I think it's going to be £8,000, £7,983, and his own office will contribute £3,000.
You should get slapped for stupidity.
You should get put up the arse and kicked out.
Take the iPad off him.
And it's just how
can you run up £11,000 while you're on holiday? I mean, how long was the holiday? A year and a half?
It was a week long.
Right.
A week? How can you run that up? I mean.
My knowledge of data usage is you can only run up that kind of bill by downloading videos, is the truth, guys.
Oh, I see.
I shall say no more.
Say no more.
Say no more. 24 hours a day on Pornhub. It says here.
Who knows?
Oh, no, maybe Netflix. It could be Netflix. That is possible. Someone on Twitter said he handled parliamentary business while on holiday in Morocco over Christmas. Aye, right.
Yeah, there was tons of parliamentary business over Christmas.
That's right. Okay, what are the Christmas? They've already decided all the Christmas decorations, what have you, before then. Anyway, this parliamentary device should not have left Scotland, period. Jackie Bailey says, what on earth could you have been doing? Well, we already discussed that. Anyway, for running up, I mean, you laugh, but I mean, £11,000 on charge
in a week,
£8,000 charged to taxpayers.
You must have had videos running constantly 24 hours a day, multiple videos.
Well, I applaud his stamina in that case.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, for that transgression, he is my Zoomer of the week. It's a strong candidate.
Strong candidate, no doubt.
Strong candidate.
It's a total.
Looks like it's Mary, you're up.
Oh, is it me? Is it not David?
Oh,
it's David? Me, actually. It's me.
David, you're
right,
up.
I'll go. Yeah, okay. Well, my nomination for Zoomer is SNP MP for Coatbrig, Christen and Belsell, Stephen Bonnar. Yesterday, during the King's speech, Bonnar felt inspired to send the following tweet. Not sure if you have it there, Mark.
Yeah, I've got it here.
You got it there, cool, yeah. And he said very loftily, I opted to read the King's speech presumably from his place in the House of Commons, rather than traipse into the Lords to hear it, Lords being next door to the Commons, of course. But a man dressed like this, talking about ways to ease the cost of living crisis, yeah, I can really see how the King wearing his regalia would impact on his ability to talk about poor people. What a load of nonsense.
But it's a brilliant, did you see the comment underneath this one here?
Yeah.
He says, a man dressed like this usually gets community service and a fine.
Brilliant. I love it. Dear Sturgeon. But of course,
I think we should point out that King Charles is what he's wearing actually belongs to the country.
Indeed.
It's not his personally. He can't wear it out of a night, on the weekend or whatever.
As much as he'd like to, I'm sure. Yeah, indeed. But let's not forget, Bonnar has previous form for example, crossing his fingers while pledging allegiance to the Queen. And I should point out here, that's the time-honoured way of crossing your fingers, but not Bonnar. He did it in this fashion, which is said to resemble 3 very notorious letters of an acronym. See if you can guess what those 3 letters are. Anyway, okay. That's just a little aside. But Bonnar also, in the past, famously became involved in a dispute with a neighbour after he, Bonnar, had hung a Celtic towel across a window in his house on the day Celtic won the league. And one of his neighbours wasn't too keen on this, and the two of them had a face-to-face, which of course ended up being recorded and broadcast on social media, following which the SNP had to issue an official apology on Bonnar's behalf. So he's a real class act, as you can see. And if you look at how he's got to be where he is, he felt inspired to get involved with politics after the 2014 independence referendum. He became a councillor. Only 4 years later, he then stood for election in Coatbridge, and he won the seat from the sitting Labour candidate. Now, as I said yesterday, Bonnar on Twitter, Bonnar is precisely the type of SNP MP who adds no value at all. He typifies the recent SNP Westminster representatives who have no political experience, no discernible talent, and no qualifications for the role. The only thing they do clearly demonstrate is their wish to break up the United Kingdom and their ability to appeal to voters in constituencies with a large proportion of voters from a very definite section of the demographic. And I think
also quite proficient at sucking money out of the Scottish taxpayer, as we just
absolutely right.
Matheson just there, who's a minister, not getting was it 96,000 or 86,000 a year?
Exactly. Plus all the expenses you could ever run. Exactly.
Yeah, so plus the expenses.
Exactly. So I mean, in short, he is exactly the sort of MP who has to be replaced. We've got to get people representing Scotland in Westminster, people who have ability, people who have life experience, rather than just offering slavish adherence to whatever ridiculous ideology is being put forward by the leaders in Holyrood.
Like that should. I mean, it just gives a venue. The Scottish government just gives Scottish Parliament just gives a venue for these people. Yeah. They should, at best, they could be councillors.
Yeah, quite exactly. I agree with that. That's
fine. Councillors, but what we've got the situation is we've got, Humza Yousaf, the first councillor, as it were, opining on world matters. It's like, come on,
quite.
You should empty the bins. That's what we want you to do.
About bins.
This is what we've said. So many people in Holyrood have got no business being there, and the only reason they should ever have been there is emptying the bins. Quite right. So I look forward with great anticipation. He's one of the guys I really will be delighted when he loses a seat to Labour, as I'm certain he will next year. So that's for those reasons.
It'll be a great moment. We can have, the Sturgeon gift. The Sturgeon,
Exactly. I don't know if you remember after the.
That'd be 5 minutes.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm just going to say after the '97 election, a book was rushed out saying, were you still up for Portillo? Meaning, did you stay up late enough at night to see even him losing his seat? And this is what I think will happen next year. We'll be writing about, were you still up for Wishart? Or were you still up for Blackman? Oh, it's going to be great. So, guys, let's make it happen.
Looking forward to it already.
Right. Okay, Mary, you're going to be up with the last Zoomer.
I'll try to make it snappy. Okay, my Zoomer of the week is a perennial favourite, Lorna Slater, who never seems to learn. Now she's at it again, messing with our bins and trying to fine us if we put rubbish in the wrong bin. This week she has been called clueless and savaged by SNP MSPs. Can you see a trend here, guys?
Yeah.
That the SNP MSPs seem to be actually finding some kind of backbone or whatever. They're savaging her over the costs of her new recycling bill, which fines Scots for using the wrong bins.
Oh, geez.
So, I mean, the question here is, who the hell is going to be issuing these fines to people for, putting stuff in the wrong bin? Are there going to be people jumping out from behind the hedge and saying, you just put a plastic bottle in the normal bin or something like that? I mean, I just don't get it. Anyway, true to form, Lorna claims so we're all laughing, but true to form, Lorna claims she has 10 out of 10 confidence in this new circular economy bill. Haven't you heard this before?
Can she
actually
even count to 10? This is the question.
The ghost of DRS seems to be, standing behind me. I don't know. But she's got 10 out of 10 confidence. But she can't even say what the costs of this are going to be. I mean, again, it has failure written all over it, doesn't it? Holyrood's Finance Committee, that's the same people that I was talking about in the segment, who say that Scotland's running out of money. They're blasting her handling of it in regards to how much it will actually cost the taxpayer. Because it's kind of like the National Care Service bill, where they don't know what any of the costs are going to be or any of the timescales or anything like that. So we don't know how much it's going to cost to implement, and we don't know any of the details, but Lorna's all gung-ho and she's going for it.
Well, he says Neil says she could have Patrick Harvey rummaging in the bins like a feral seagull.
Brilliant.
What a picture that is.
Oh yes, I know there's some people share the bins. So which person gets the fine?
It's not just that. It's you put your bin out in the street. Once you've put your bin out in the street,
anybody can put stuff in it. Exactly.
You're supposed to stay up all night watching it in case somebody puts something wrong in it, and we're going to get fined.
Again, it's another situation of a person who should not be given that much power.
Absolutely.
Over our lives.
I think she just sits and tries to think up ridiculous stuff that can cause you a lot of trouble for absolutely nothing.
Exactly right.
Or maybe the bin men will get some kind of special certification in a way. Maybe they'll be like GoPros and all that.
Maybe they'll need to be armed and stuff. With their,
You get raided because you put the wrong bottle
you
in the wrong
bin. You put paper
bin.
in the other bin or something.
Plastic bin, yeah. Oh my God, dear.
Families will turn on families. Mark my words.
Right, Mary. Well, okay, it's you who can decide the winner.
I never get to decide the winner.
So it's either your own, Lorna Slater.
Right.
It's David's Bonnar,
yep.
or mine, Michael Matheson, for his iPad, £11,000 bill.
Well, as much as I think Lorna is a total loony and a complete zoomer, this is just kind of par for the course for her, really, isn't it?
Yep.
And Stephen Bonnar, he's just an idiot.
That's right.
And he's just disrespectful and
garbage. He's getting some quite good comments here.
Very bad for Scotland. So, Mark, I'm going to choose you.
Yes, I won one. I haven't won one for ages. I've won for ages. Thank you, Mary.
Well, all that money you gave me earlier. So I'm going to say the Zoomer of the week is going to be Michael Matheson. And the reason is you have to really be some kind of a Zoomer to actually spend £11,000 on, your iPad bill.
How is that even possible? I've never heard that. That should be international news.
They would have been sending them messages like crazy, telling them.
That should be in the front page of the New York Times. Man spends £11,000 on mobile charges. It's just so insane.
But the thing is, it wasn't his money.
World-leading insanity.
I bet if it had been his money, he wouldn't have spent £11,000.
1/10 of that, exactly right.
And therefore, Michael Matheson is a complete and utter zoomer.
Well, yes. Well done there, Mary, for choosing me. That is great. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us on the show tonight. We're running a little bit late as well. So I'm going to leave you with the thought of the week, which is about a remembrance, and it's from the famous poem. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Brilliant.
We are so happy to have you with us on our show every week, this which is Scotland's #1 politics chat. We hope you agree with that. We will see you again next Wednesday, November the 15th. Please invite a friend to watch the show if you think they may enjoy it. Good night from me.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for the comments.
Good night, everyone. Brilliant comments as always. Fantastic.
All right. See you soon.
Cheers, guys.